from Kern Government Television. Welcome to this week's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting. Originating from the County Administrative Center, located at 1115 Truxton Avenue in Bakersfield, California. Grounded in ideas, energy, and innovation, Kern County's vision is to be a driving force for the world's fifth largest economy. And our mission is to exceed expectations of the communities we serve, changing the way they feel about government, those who manage it, and the services it provides. Today's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting will convene momentarily.
Okay, board to reconvene. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Supervisor Peters. Supervisor Scrivener.
Here.
Supervisor Flores.
Here.
Supervisor Couch.
Here.
Supervisor Perez. Here.
Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome to the Tuesday, June 27th p.m. Meeting of the Kern County Board of Supervisors. At this time, we'll hear first from a report from County Counsel, Margot Rizon, for a report on items taken in closed session.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This morning you met in closed session on items 48, 49, and 50, but there is no reportable action.
Thank you, Ms. Rizon. Okay, at this time, we'll begin by considering the consent agenda. Agendas are located at the tables at the back of the room for anyone wishing to follow along. All items listed with a CA above the item number are considered to be routine and non-controversial by county staff. Consent items will be considered first and may be approved by one motion. If a member of the audience wishes to comment or ask questions regarding an item on the consent agenda, they may do so prior to a vote being taken. A member of the board may remove any item from the consent agenda and it will be considered in its listed sequence with an opportunity for any member of the public to address the board concerning the item before action is taken. At this time, I'll read the consent agenda items. On page 2, items 3 and 4. On page 3, items 5 and 6. On page 4, items 7 through 9. On page 5, items 10 through 12. On page 6, items 13 through 18. On page 7, items 20 through 27. On page 8, items 28 through 30 and items 32 through 33. And on page 9, items 34 through 37. And on page 10, items 38 through 40. At this time, are there any members of the public that would like to comment on any of the consent agenda items? Now's the time. Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for action.
Motion on consent.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Members, cast your vote.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Okay, thank you. Brings us to item number 1, public presentations. Are there any members of the public who would like to address the board under public presentations? Okay.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Richard Chapman, the President and CEO of the Kern Economic Development Corporation, and I wanted to come today to present, hot off the press, our new Kern County Market Overview as well as Member Directory. So I brought 7 copies. I know some of you have seen the previous version. So this is also available digitally. And basically, our mission is to promote and cultivate Kern County's boundless opportunities for business. And the publication that I'm about to hand you won a couple of years ago a IEDC, which is International Economic Development Council Award, Silver Award for Best Promotional Magazine. And we really do enjoy telling the story of Kern County's incredible economic vitality as well as potential. We are a coalition of business, government, education, and we're honored to have 2 supervisors, Supervisor Scrivener as well as David Couch on our executive committee. I wanted to also talk about some of the initiatives moving forward. As we are an advocate for business growth, both retention and expansion, really privileged to tell the story of Kern County, and just got back from the World Economic Forum discussing the Carbon Management Business Park, as well as the carbon capture sequestration projects kudos to the Board of Supervisors, as well as Lorelei Oviatt, Planning and Natural Resource Department, getting worldwide recognition. It's an amazing thing. Yesterday, we were at AES's project. That's the nation's largest permitted solar and storage facility. I think I have that right. These things are happening throughout the county. And frankly, East Kern is really booming. Our organization 15 years ago started the East Kern Economic Alliance to represent the communities and businesses in East Kern, and we've had a record attendance in the last meeting. So how do we work bringing East and West Kern together? We have, the last 3 years, we've had record number of projects, on average about 50. That's a 40% increase. And we know when they come in Kern County, look to Kern County or expand in Kern County, you know, the rubber meets the road, and we're committed both at the public and private sector, as well as education.
Thank you, Mr.
We started the Manufacturing Alliance of Kern this last year, and we were about 50 manufacturers at the table.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman. Your time's expired, but
Thank you. And finally, we're launching the Where Business is Boundless series, focusing on the major industries in Kern. Appreciate the supervisor support as well as the CAO's office, and hope to see you on September 14th at our annual dinner.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. There it is.
Good afternoon. My name is Ralph Robles. I am a veteran, and I've been bringing this list of questions, none of which you folks have deemed to answer. Starting off, when are we going to see security or surveillance cameras over the ballot drop boxes? How many ballots were sent to invalid addresses during the last 2 elections? How many ballots were harvested? How many ballots were sent to addresses with an unusually large number of voters? How many ballots were counted from nursing and assisted living facilities? How many names were purged from the voter rolls before the latest election? How many dead people voted in the last 2 elections? In the latest election voter recount, did you use the same method of counting as in the original count? How many equipment failures occurred during the last 2 elections? How much time was spent on the halt of the ballot count? How many times was the ballot count revised? How many times was the number of ballots left to be counted revised? What actions have been taken to prevent recurrence of this event of stoppage of ballot recounts? How many ballots were processed even though their envelopes had no signatures? How close will the election observers be allowed to stand at the next election in order to see the signature verification process? How many ballots were flagged for curing? And what was the procedure for curing them? How many of the ballots were cured? How many ballots were flagged for adjudication? And what was the process for adjudication? How many of the above ballots were adjudicated as valid?
Thank you, Mr. Robles. Before we go to the next speaker, I would like to say that this morning's session, we did have a budget item overview on our preliminary budget. And one of the budget items that was discussed was elections, and to a tune of another $2.9 million funding our elections to give them the best equipment possible, to give them the staffing, to give them the security cameras that you've talked about at our Dropbox locations, and also a deputy and other things. If you have any more questions, please leave them with the clerk, and we get those answered through Amy Espinoza, like your prior questions that you've had. The last questions you submitted, I think she provided you 26 answers. A lot of your questions are redundant, or a lot of the questions are redundant, but you can ask them again, and we'll get you the answers. If there's new questions, we can get those new questions to Amy. Next speaker. Okay. Seeing none. Okay, this is going to board member comments or announcements. Supervisor Couch.
Thank you for giving me just a moment today for us to do something that we don't often do, but something recently occurred that I thought was noteworthy, and I wanted to bring it to the community's attention, and I wanted to recognize some folks here today. I'm going to tell you who we've got here today. It's a long list of distinguished folks, and as I read your name, could I just ask you to stand and join me up here? And Ms. Krause, I'm going to let you know who is going to be speaking, in what order they're going to be speaking, and who they're with. Let's go from south to north. Joining us today is the principal of Arvin High School, Mr. Ed Watts. From McFarland Unified School District, we have Mr. Aaron Resendez, who is the superintendent of the McFarland Unified School District. He'll be speaking, and Ms. Krause already omitted that Mr. Watts will be speaking as well before him. Mr. Brian Bell, assistant superintendent, is here, and Nancy Ann Munoz, who is a principal at McFarland High, is here. Representing the Delano Joint Union High School District, Paul Chavez will be speaking. Paul is the director of CTE, that's the Career Technical Education, Director of Career and Technical Education. Also with him is the principal of Robert F. Kennedy High School, Ms. Dolores Rodriguez, and the principal of Delano High School, Ms. Chandra Walker. Kenny Moore, the assistant superintendent, is also here. Also in attendance, I mentioned Paul Chavez, he'll be speaking, and Mr. Rodel Rojas. Also, I think we have two others. Mr. Romeo Agbalog, trustee for the Kern Community College District, and he's going to introduce Mr. Steve Watkin, who is for a while, he's still, for at least a year, he says, he's the new president of Bakersfield College. And I also want to point out that two of our board members were fairly instrumental in the genesis of the program that I'm going to talk about, which is the dual enrollment, high school dual enrollment. And what happened recently that I think is obviously of note is that the Department of Education of the state of California awarded the dual enrollment award to 9 high schools in the state of California, and only 9. And they recognize schools that offer the opportunity to enroll and earn college credits while in high school. And according to the department, the program description, schools are selected for this award that demonstrate quality, equity-driven enrollment programs. Now again, 9 high schools in the entire state of California won this award. 4 of those high schools are from Kern County, and I am fortunate enough and proud enough to say that those 4 are in the 4th district. Got 2 in Delano, 1 in McFarland, and 1 in Arvin. So that is the end of what I would like to say about this. I want to give some certificates of recognition to Mr. Watts, Mr. Resendez, Mr. Chavez, and for their districts. And we also have one for for Robert F. Kennedy High School and Delano High School. Those are two schools in the same district that have received this award. So each school gets a certificate. Lastly, I would just say, I think this program, we talk about it a lot, but it is going to pay huge dividends to this community. Not only are kids going to be, I call them kids, students will be graduating oftentimes with an AA. That saves them not only the money that they would have to spend to go to college, it saves them the time. They get to be in the workforce 2 years early. And what do we need here in Kern County? We need an educated, motivated young workforce, and this program is going to provide exactly that. So I just want to say, on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, we want to present you with these, but we really want to say thank you to these folks, because they're the ones with their staffs, with their teachers, their counselors, the students and the parents that have made this happen. And we just want to say, I'll read what one of these says, that we just really appreciate the work that you all have done. And it reads, as a 2022-2023 recipient of the Exemplary Dual Enrollment Program from the California Department of Education for exemplary public service and civic contributions to the community in Kern County. Each of these is signed by all members of the Board of Supervisors and dated today, June 27th, I believe it is, right? I did great until right then, didn't I? Thank you for that. So let's go south to north, starting with Ed Watts, then Aaron, then Paul, and then we'll have Romeo come in and clean it up on behalf of the Kern Community College District. Mr. Watts.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Couch, for inviting me here and us here today. It's obviously when the state of California steps up and says, you guys are exemplars, that's very impressive. And makes you very proud with the work we're doing. But I would be very remiss if I didn't really talk about the people on the ground doing this work. This is a partnership between us and the Kern Community College District. They are valuable partners in this work, and it's through a vision for us in Kern High about 9 years ago through Dr. Sonia Christian, who came forward with this wild out-of-the-box idea of creating a structure that would launch kids out into the future ahead of kids like never before. And so she proposed a model. We got into the water with this model, and I can sit here for the next 3 hours and tell you how proud I am of it and how well our kids are doing. Yes, the pandemic slowed the roll a little bit, but I can speak for Auburn High School. We have 40 kids on track in my sophomore class. We're going to walk with an AA degree here in a couple of years. That's exciting. So, and my peers and partners behind me, a little bit ahead of me, are doing that already. So there's just outstanding work being done out there in the realm of dual enrollment, early college models that are outstanding in moving our kids ahead. Little shout out to the Kern Community College District. We had I love this word, symposium. We had a symposium right over here at the hotel, right over, I can't even remember the name of it. Marriott. Thank you. I almost said Doubletree. I don't want to misrepresent. But at the Marriott, and people from all over the state came to see what we do here in Kern County. And so it's my hat's off to them because they're amazing partners. My hat's off to the professors both at the school level, but also at the college level who are in partnership with us to make this work happen. So I'm going to stop with that or I'll be up here all day. But thank you for recognizing, but thank you more to the partnership. And we're just excited for what we can do for the kids, and that's the bottom line. It's not about awards or recognitions or anything else. It's about what the kids are getting who are potentially have-nots, as they're labeled. No, they're launching out there. I have 2 graduated from Davis this year in 2 years. So they're moving quickly. So that's the power of what this model does. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Principal Watts.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Aaron Resendez. Thank you, Supervisor Couch. And I'm the superintendent for the McFarland Unified School District. And we're very proud of first of all, being recognized as one of the exemplary schools here for dual enrollment in the state of California. To Mr. Watt's point, this is not just about recognitions and awards and things like that. But if we're going to brag, 100% of the comprehensive high schools in McFarland received this award. But folks, seriously, this is a game-changing model across the state of California. We say very often that the 27 miles between McFarland and the main campus for Bakersfield College for many of our students might as well be 100 miles. And so we're working very, very hard to build resilient, efficient programs and pathways for our students. We want to make sure that we have sustainable programs so that when budget shortfalls and things like that happen, we can be able to overcome those. 100% of the incoming freshmen at McFarland High School are dual enrolled in Bakersfield College. We had this year 30 of our students walk across the stage and receive their Associate of Arts degree. We're anticipating 60 next year as this continues to grow. We have 1,100 students. We have a variety of pathways. And this is the type of program that with our partners at Bakersfield College, the work that Dr. Sonia Christian, that Mr. Steve Watkins, the Board of Trustees represented here by Romeo Agblog and the Kern Community College District, these are the kind of innovative programs and decisions that need to happen in the boardrooms and in all of our classrooms if we're really going to move Kern County forward and really lead the way for the state of California. Folks, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Paul Chavez from the Atlanta Joint Union High School District, CT Director, and oversee all the dual enrollment for our district. So as the two who spoke before, extremely excited for all this growth for the dual enrollment program. Again, I want to go ahead and thank Bakersfield College, and their team for all the support they provide us in our district, providing opportunities for our students to take these college level classes and take that step ahead. Very excited. In our district, we have 3 comprehensive high schools: Delano High School, Robert F. Kennedy High School, and Cedar Chavez High School. And we had 2 of the 3 schools in our district that received the exemplary dual enrollment award. So very excited with Delano High School Principal Chandra Walker and RFK Principal Dolores Rodriguez. So again, our program started about 15, 16, a lot of back and forth. Mr. Steve Watkin, who's overseeing Bakersfield College now, remembers a lot of conversations we had to try to help our students move forward. It's an awesome program. We see the growth in our district, and talking to parents and talking to students. Everybody's excited. Not only are they taking the classes that are offered on campus, which we call dual enrollment, which provides them the opportunity to get high school and college credit, they're also taking the concurrent enrollment classes, which means they're signing up after school, they're signing up in the summers, they're going to take additional classes outside their regular school day. And that's how these students are earning these AA degrees. And so in our district, this last year, we actually had 41 total students in our district that got an AA degree. So it's pretty amazing when you have 41 high school graduates walking across the Bakersfield College stage on May 12th, and then they don't even walk across our high school stage until June. So I know that rubs off. Other students are getting eager. We continue to expand our offerings. Ultimately, we want to make them meaningful so that we can they can earn those credits towards those transfer classes. So as already mentioned earlier, instead of having to leave high school and go start and do 4 years, they have some direction of where they want to go and what they want to do, and they are kind of 2 years ahead. And not only are the students that are receiving all those AAs this year, but we have tons and tons of other students that are receiving college credits and saving that time and money. So when they transition, they kind of already have a head start. I think my principal at Delano High School had made a mention recently that I think at Delano High School there was 92% of their graduating seniors had at least 2 classes for college credit by the time they graduated as seniors. And so I think moving forward, that's the growth of the program, the opportunities we're looking to provide our students is game-changing in our rural communities. A lot of these first-time students going to college, and to really see their drive and their inspiration from this opportunity to obtain these credits, save that time and save that money, and provide opportunities for the families is going to be amazing. So again, I want to thank all of our college partners, especially Bakersfield College, who we do the majority of our dual enrollment with. We do a little bit with Saracoso and then a little bit with Cal State Bakersfield, but overall, continue to look forward to the growth and hoping next year and the year after continues to move in the right direction and continue to provide these opportunities for our students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chairman, members of the board. Romeo Agbalog, President of the Board of Trustees for the Kern Community College District. I'd like to take a moment to thank Supervisor Couch for recognizing these shining stars in the area of education here in Kern County. I'm joined here with our President, Steve Watkin, who in his prior role, before assuming the presidency, was in charge of outreach and dual enrollment for Bakersfield College. You know, we're here to recognize, but more importantly, celebrate the work of these partners. You know, when you stop and you think, here in Kern County, at the Kern Community College District with its partners, we are re-engineering the way that we deliver higher ed instruction, that we can serve as a model not only to others statewide, but the nation. We're not only allowing students to take college level courses in high school, we're opening opportunities for these students to dream, to achieve, and contribute back to the community. So I just want to take my hat off and tip it to these folks. They did all the heavy lifting, you know, many hands made for light work, and we're so proud of the work that they're doing. And at this time, I'd like to invite Steve Watkin to come up and say a few words on behalf of the college. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Agbalog. Welcome.
Mr. Couch, thank you, and to the board, thank you for this opportunity to recognize our high schools in this region. I'm very fortunate and very blessed to be part of the work that has been done. I would like to just let you know, this year, 175 students got their AA degree before they received their high school diploma. So if you can just imagine. So on our commencement day, May 12th, we had 175 high school students taking their picture, and their families were at the Memorial Stadium. And I can assure you the energy was there. And even for those students who didn't get their AA degree, at least many of them have taken at least 1, 2, or 3 courses. And overall, some will go on and continue to get their bachelor's degree, and some will go to work. But I'm very thankful that Bakersfield College is here to work with our partners, and I want to thank all of our high school partners. This is just the beginning. I think we're going to see more students complete their AA degree before they graduate from high school. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, President.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for indulging me in that. I don't know if I mentioned, but I know that you and Supervisor Peters were on the Kern High Board when this was germinated, and so I want to recognize the work that you did on that as well.
Thank you, Supervisor Couch, for bringing this forward. And I think Supervisor Perez, we're gonna get to her, and Supervisor Peters, and then myself. But thank you, Supervisor Couch. Supervisor Perez.
Thank you very much. First of all, that was a really excellent presentation, Supervisor Couch. You put our other one to shame with this incredible display of the hearts and minds of people doing the real work on the ground of taking our youth, which are the second highest youth disconnected rate of the largest 98 metropolitan areas in America. Bakersfield, above 250,000. The least literate city, above 250,000, and our youth disconnected rate between 16 and 24, right? Second only to Memphis, Tennessee. They're 22.6, we're 22.2. If you take rural Kern, we're off the charts. Literally, without what you're doing, the least prepared youth in America to compete. It's astonishing to think about those numbers, especially when you can envision a private-public partnership with the incredible educators at the helm that know where to streamline, right, and cut the process down, make it cheaper, and launch our kids, which are viewed by so many outsiders as to be disconnected. Now they're hyper-competitive. To Supervisor Couch's point, shorter period of time, more desirable to employees, can be in the workforce faster. And it's also not just for the AA kids, and thank God, the 175, that is just so extraordinary. But it's also for all these other kids who will get a foot in the door, who will get some kind of certification, who will realize they want to serve their country or become a firefighter or whatever, right? They get their foot in the door in that college experience earlier as you are connecting them. They're disconnected, we're reconnecting them. And I just cannot tell you how exciting it is to see this, how grateful I am, and to thank you here, Supervisor Couch, a fabulous presentation. And I know one of the shortages we have are shortages of teachers with masters. So just to put it out there into the universe, so what really is the magic in here, in making it come to fruition, are teachers that can both teach the high school class and the college class because they have a master's. So that's it. That's an area that we gotta, as a community, really work to close the gap on. But man, are we really making major progress here. Again, want to tip my hat to Mike Turnipseed, who recognizes that this is good for the taxpayer, and this is good for Kern County, and it is, the right approach for us to promote in all corners of Kern County. So I just really want to tip my hat to you, and also say to the supervisor what an exceptional presentation this is, and your enthusiasm is palpable, and that's unusual for you. So I'm happy to see, you're a very reserved gentleman, but this is a subject where I feel I feel enthusiasm from you, and that's exciting to me because this is for all of us, for absolutely all of us. So thank you. That's all, Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor Perez. Supervisor Peters.
There we go. All right, sorry, my computer screen's broken. All these teachers down here, I feel like that's like showing up to class without your textbook. I just wanted to say thank you guys for everything that you do. Thank you, Supervisor Couch, for bringing this forward. This is super exciting. I'm not going to belabor the points we've been hearing, but this is giving kids a great head start, making college more affordable, more accessible, giving kids a great opportunity to go out and get ahead. It's mind-blowing to me. I remember just trying to survive my next report card coming out, and these kids are getting a college degree before they even graduate high school. It's amazing. So thank you guys. This program's amazing. I know we heard some career technical education get mentioned earlier as well. these types of programs are really building the next group of leaders for the county. And hats off to you guys for everything that you're doing, and to the students that are stepping up and putting in the work to go out and make this happen. So thank you guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Peters. And again, I'd like to echo that. Thank you, Supervisor Couch, and all our high schools, our Kern Community College District, our trustees, Kern High School District, for dual enrollment and early college. I remember in 2015 when this was rolled out, you started with 500 in dual enrollment, and now we're approaching 5,000. There's 5,000 lives whose trajectory is only going up. And we talk about economic development, we talk about our sectors, we talk about our geography, we talk about our strengths. There is no greater strength than developing our intellectual capital, and that's just a key to our respective success. And our success here is manifested with you in the work that you do, so thank you. Okay, this moving on to item number 19. Oh, sorry. Thank you. This is under the County Administrative Office. This is a response to a request from Supervisor David Couch to provide parks funding information. And I will turn it over to Ryan Alsop, our CAO. Mr. Alsop.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to let Supervisor Couch get settled. I did want to just use the opportunity to speak for our duly elected auditor controller, Ms. Espinoza. I have a list of every single question Mr. Robles asked. I followed along with him, and there are answers, very specific answers to each one of those questions, and this document was provided reportedly to him in May. And unfortunately, he left. I yelled at him I didn't yell at him, I whispered at him, and he didn't hear me. I was going to hand it to him, but maybe we can make sure he's in possession of this. So I wanted to let your board know.
Thank you, Mr. Alsop, and I have a hunch that he'll be here at our next meeting, and maybe we can revisit that. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, moving to under number 19, under CAO, again, response to request from Supervisor David Couch to provide parks funding for information.
Sure. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and Supervisor Couch. You had made a referral following public comments from Mr. Lane, who's a member of the, or an officer with the local Sierra Club here last week during, I believe, during public comment. Oh, do I need to start?
I just want, I hope that you're going to touch on.
Yeah, I was looking.
It's full screen.
It's full screen here.
Gotcha. Okay.
Sorry about that. Okay. There we go. Sorry. Yeah, I was just going to touch. I threw some slides together. I first wanted to talk specifically about your point about many overlapping jurisdictions that are focused on parks around the county. And I'm just going to focus really, I'll show the whole county as I'm on your screen, showing you all the supervisorial districts. This slide shows the overlapping parks and recs, various parks and rec districts. Obviously, a disproportionate amount of those are in the 4th district, as you can see. When you then take a look at the incorporated cities and their jurisdictions, which is separate from the Parks and Rec districts, and you put them together, you'll see that there's quite a bit of activity. In fact, you've got 15 different overlapping Parks and Rec districts, including incorporated cities and their territories, and all of the parks in your supervisorial district that they're funding. So there's a lot going on, and to your point, you've got a disproportionate amount of them in your district, although there are Parks and Rec districts for other supervisorial districts. Just those are the list of all of those 15. And getting specifically to Mr. Lane's comments, this really stems back to 1920. That year we had, I think in 2020 or 2021 had provided Mr. Lane, at his request, a significant amount of data related to our parks, a whole bunch of data. And from that, he pulled out some expenditures at that time for 1920 parks expenditures. He put those expenditures by supervisorial district and subsequently wrote an op-ed in the paper, local paper, talking about how ongoing funding for parks needs to be allocated equitably throughout Kern County, that these numbers show at the time that that was not occurring, and the Sierra Club and Mr. Lane said that that was fundamentally unfair. And subsequent to that, I drafted a Community Voices piece in the Californian to try and educate the readers about the what I would consider a very overly simplistic analysis that was done by the Sierra Club when they were looking at all of those numbers. I actually personally called the president of the local Sierra Club, Stephen Montgomery, talked to him about it. He, at the time, told me it made sense to him, but I needed to talk to Mr. Lane because he's the one who was really involved with doing this. And I called Mr. Lane personally and spent some time on the phone with him talking directly. I like Mr. Lane very much. Spent some time with him, and the Sierra Club is still attending our meetings and talking about this, so it wasn't effective, I guess. It wasn't convincing. I subsequently then agendized an item for the Parks and Rec Commission and actually presented all of this information to the Parks and Rec Commission back in 21, I believe. So funding for Kern County parks, funding goes to a variety of different things in our parks. There is, operations, ongoing operations functions, and then there are capital improvement functions where we actually go in and do new things, which we're doing quite a lot of, as you all know right now. But you have neighborhood parks, you have regional parks, you have pocket parks. There's a circle with a tree in it in my neighborhood that's probably about 20 feet wide. That's actually a county park in the middle of our neighborhood in La Cresta. You have a number of facilities in these parks. They're different sizes, shapes. Some parks don't have any. Other parks have vet centers and community centers and ball fields of some sort. And there are obviously, we have 3 golf courses. So there's labor, utilities, landscape, maintenance. Sometimes it's proactive, sometimes it's reactive, sometimes it's an emergency. And then you've got improvement. You get it. Law enforcement is not equal at our parks. There are different law enforcement needs at different parks, given the utility of those parks, their location, their size, et cetera. And funding is allocated through, obviously, the annual budget process that your board takes up every year. General Services keeps a major maintenance list of things that are needed to be done. There are a number of parks that generate revenue and facilities in them that generate revenue. And funding comes from economic development areas, CDBG, which is federal, ARPA, which is federal. There are the golf course enterprise funds, et cetera, grant awards through Prop 68. And as you are aware, in 2017, your board began getting a direct discretionary allocation, which is equal among each supervisorial district. At the time, we started with about $250,000, allowing you to use that money at your discretion. The idea was, let's take some of the funding that we had listed out in all of these major maintenance and capital improvements around the county, and let's try to do a better job of funneling those things into parks and places that really were tangible for people, things that mattered, and allow the supervisors to plan what those things are, working with stakeholders in their communities. This is what local government is all about. And we started that back in 2017. And that discretionary amount of money has actually grown over the years. So this slide really shows you all of the different considerations that need to take place when you're actually looking at figures and park expenditures, which were not controlled for or considered in the Sierra Club's hypothesis recently made, again, last week. Different number of parks, size, scope, amenities, use, expense, neighborhood, regional versus facilities. There is a whole host of different things in parks, a range of different infrastructure. We've got lakes to take care of, rivers, golf courses that we spend big money to keep major maintenance updated, and law enforcement is different. Law enforcement at Hart Park is not the same as law enforcement at Potomac Park. It's a completely different animal. And then there's utility. Obviously, we've got all of those parks listed, Hart Park, Buena Vista. There are revenue-generating parks, again, maintenance, and then there are considerations for utility, tourism, and economy. Here are each supervisorial district and the total acres of parkland in each supervisorial district. Mr. Lane had asserted that, and I respect his assertion, that we should be taking the $5 that we have to spend on parks every year and giving $1 each to each supervisorial district. Now, that wouldn't work. We would be in a world of disarray, disorganization, and disrepair in doing so. As you can see, we've got big differences in acreage, and in each of these slices of pie, there are different things going on. Just to point out, the smallest number of acres of park land are in D5, 83 acres, and you've got D4, which District 4, Supervisor Couch's district, with 650 acres. You have District 2, which has double the amount of all of the districts combined, essentially, or nearly combined. And then D3 with the, all of the acreage that's in D4, D5, and D1 combined. So the numbers that were put out originally, I didn't change the slide. This is the same slide I used for the Parks and Recs Commission. I'll make it current in a second, but in 19 and 20, the numbers on your far right are the total expenditures. You can see D2 and D3 are higher than the other parks in terms of expenditure. But another way to look at this is you break it down per acre, and you've got a different view of the world. You have D5, we're spending $16,453 per acre in D5 versus $2,100, little over $2,100 per acre in D2. That's just one way of looking at it. But again, it sort of demonstrates the uniqueness of our geography and how everything's laid out. I didn't plan it this way. It's just sort of what we have. I've got a couple of red asterisks there. I just want to give you an example of D2. I did have a slide for D3, which I cut by accident, and I don't have it, but D2, it sums it up. It's taking that $4,988,000 figure, which is loaded, which is the figure that was pointed out by the Sierra Club. But in that figure are parks that generate revenue. Those are parks that have grant funding that have been granted by the state or given by, made possible by Lorelei Oviatt. And it includes operations. But Buena Vista Aquatic and Recreational Area, it's 1,500 acres alone, just that park, right? That's more than the total acres of 3 districts combined. It's an outlier. Tehachapi Mountain Park, an outlier. Both those parks generate revenue. It's not enough revenue to cover all the expenses. I'm looking at a list in just this budget year that's close to $7 million that we're spending just in at Buena Vista Lake for infrastructure. Water piping, water pumps, valve replacement, tank repair, boat dock restriping and resurfacing. The utility of that lake requires it. Keeping that recreational area operating and functional requires this. People don't see it and appreciate it, but it's required to make that lake a viable place for people from all over the county to recreate. I'm just giving you an example of an outlier. Obviously, the golf course and the big expenditures there is an outlier. When you control for outliers, again, this is a different way and another way of looking at park funding. You see, things are a little bit more even. In fact, you see that District 3 and 4 actually go down from where District 5 is in 2019 and 20. That's one unique fiscal year. These things change every year, but it gives you an idea when you separate out these big outliers, which I think everybody would agree is logical. You see that it's a little bit different, and that's a specific fiscal year. Again, they're different in every fiscal year. I provided this to the Parks and Recs Commission. I don't think the Sierra Club was in attendance at that meeting, but this is a list. I went down, I got to 18 and I stopped. But this gives you an idea of where in 2019-20 fiscal year, our top capital improvement spending went. It's dominated by parks in disadvantaged areas. For that particular fiscal year. I mean, it's not all of them, but it's most of them. I stopped at the 53,000 mark. Since 2016, as of 2021, when I gave this presentation, top major capital improvement spending per supervisorial district, per acre, listed from 1 through 5. District 5 has more spending per acre than everybody else. District 1 follows, District 4 follows that. District 3 and District 2 are at the bottom. It's a different way of looking at it, but it's a reality. I threw this in just to say that, look, parks in disadvantaged areas are important to us. And I wanted to really honor our park staff. We've got quite a few people that have worked very hard. We applied for almost $38 million in state grant funding for 5 parks. We got awarded for a couple, one for the full amount, one for less than the full amount, but we'll take it, right? But we did 25 community meetings. We constantly, I hear from the Sierra Club that we don't have public input in these things. We went out, and these park master plans were all designed by people living in and around Potomac Park, Heritage Park, Mojave East Park, Lamont Park, Virginia Avenue Park. The community designed those. Our park staff led those meetings. We are seeking grant funding. And at the very end of the day, if we don't get immediate grant funding, we at least have a master plan that we aim for, something to aim for in these parks with your board's discretionary revenues and with future grant funding opportunities. So I'm just going to focus on D4 and D5 because that was really I could go over and talk at length and waste more time here talking about all of the different parks investment, everything going on everywhere. But just in D4, this fiscal year, we have budgeted $7 million for the complete redo of Lamont Park. That's through grant funding. Lost Hills upgrades, which Jeff Hill is going to talk about in a moment, show all kinds of pictures, $2.1 million out at Lost Hills through a grant. We're building a brand new neighborhood park in the La Colonia Mexican colony. If anybody needs a park, it's them. Trust me, I've been there. They've been asking for one. Supervisor Couch is delivering. This is seed money to build it. We have beautiful renderings. It's a basketball court, park benches, trees, tables. It's fantastic. That's funded through ARPA. We're putting a new park in Fuller Acres. They also need one. It's an important community. That's funded through ARPA. My point is that most of these things are, these funding streams have to be uniquely tied to specific areas. ARPA money has to be spent in qualified census tract areas. Not every park falls into a qualified census tract area. It's defined by the federal government. And frankly, when you look at that list, it's somewhat of a head scratcher because I think there are areas that should fall within those qualified census tracts, but they don't. And Supervisor Couch also has $1.3 million in discretionary revenue coming out of the general fund to work with members of his community to spend on one park or two parks or all of his parks. If he doesn't spend it, it'll roll over. But we continue to invest in that pot of money.
That's in this current budget, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
D5, we're completely redoing Heritage Park. Supervisor Perez is continuing her work on Belterrace revitalization. That park's being transformed. We're redoing the restrooms, the playground, I mean, it's soup to nuts out there, everything. Casa Loma Park revitalization. New soccer field, new fencing, new restrooms, restroom replacement. We're spending a little bit of money out of general fund for lighting. We've had people go out there and completely vandalize the entire lighting system. Stealing, it's happened more than once, it's happened twice. $625,000 to fix. And we talk about equitable funding. You know, there's no way we do that and address these acute emergency problems that arise in our parks where we have to go out and get them fixed. Virginia Park revitalization, new play structures, new restrooms, Potomac Park revitalization, brand new play structures out there. This is all budgeted. In addition to that, and separate from that, those are all grant funded with the exception of a small amount of general fund. Supervisor Perez has $1.3 million in discretionary revenue to work with community members to spend that money on park revitalization in your district.
If I thank you, Ryan,
Yes.
people are going to think I have 1.3. Actually, more than half of that is an iBank loan
Right.
from Supervisor Rubio, who I still have not forgiven him for this.
Well, no,
because I've been paying it back, as you know,
No,
Couch.
that's separate. That's completely separate.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
My
you,
mistake.
this is an example of you have unique things and unique funding streams coming in that fund parks that aren't equally shared.
Well, I'm still mad about that iBank loan.
But the $1.3 million in discretionary general fund revenue, which is essentially the only general fund revenue that is provided to your board for capital improvement in parks, is equally shared. Despite the difference in acreage, and despite a lot of things, that is the amount of money each of you have to do different things in your parks while we continue to seek grant funding, and we go for the win, right? Not all parks are best set up to win for a grant. We're going for the win where we can, and while we continue to take a very strong approach to operation and maintenance functions in our parks, understanding that all of them are different. That ends my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that your board might have.
Thank you, Mr. Alsop. Supervisor Peters.
You want the presentation back up?
No, that's
Oh.
okay. I just needed my mic on. My
sir.
computer screen's not working. So I just wanted to thank you guys for your presentation. Thank Supervisor Couch for bringing this up. I think it's important that we get some of these questions answered. And just for my part, I really do want to thank Mr. Lane for bringing this up. You're advocating constantly for the community. I appreciate that very much. I really do. I get it, but I think you might be looking at some of these things through a more narrow lens than we maybe should. If we look at the fire budget that way, if Supervisor Flores' district got the same amount of fire funding as mine did in having all the forest fires, all the sequoias, all that in my district, it would make 0 sense. There's a lot of different situations, a lot of different aspects to how these things get divvied up. And believe me, I think our CAO, Ryan Alsop. I think Jeff Hill would be the first to tell you that if any of my colleagues felt like them or their constituents were getting shortchanged, we would be the first to call them and be duking it out over whatever funding we needed. So, for example, the parks up in the Kern River Valley needed an unusual amount of help this year because of flooding damage, and Mr. Hill and his team were on top of it, getting the funding that we need, getting the resources, making sure that repairs get scheduled, that those parks get opened back up as soon as possible. So while I do appreciate your advocacy, I think that things are going very well in our departments, and I just want to take a moment and commend our CAO and our Mr. Hill and your department for all of your hard work. You guys are in my office talking with me constantly, planning, figuring out what we can do. We've got some great projects going on out in Ridgecrest, ton of projects going on in the Kern River Valley, and I think things are going great in my district. So I appreciate everything you guys are doing.
Thank you, Supervisor Peters. Supervisor Couch. Oh, okay. So at this time, we'll open it up to public comment. Please make your way forward. We should go. We have the votes necessary.
Ms. Krause, can I borrow my copy back? My name's Eddie Lane. I've been mentioned a little bit here, and I appreciate this opportunity. The Sierra Club has repeatedly urged fairness with regard to the use of Kern County, state, and federal tax dollars allocated by this Board of Supervisors. There are real-time ground-level ramifications of funding inequities. I've given 4 pictures out. Can we show those now? Number 1. The first picture, this is of the, sorry for the number 1 on there. This is a picture of the new restrooms of the Kern River Campground. There are actually 2 sets of restrooms. There are 4 restrooms. There are 4 showers. This was $1.5 million out of Kern County general funds. This issue seemed to not come out of the blue. As one who lives down there, I spied on the old restrooms quite a bit. They were not in serious disrepair. But anyway, they're being finished now. It's nice for the campers there. So let me go on to the second picture. And this is a picture of the soccer field at Belterrace Park. And as you can see, there was some kind of major fire down there. And it looks like it doesn't look very good, leave it that way. Third picture is of Casaloma Park. This was Belterrace, Casaloma Park. This is, there's 1 restroom open in Casaloma Park. There are 2 porta potties there. There's no running water at that park for sanitation purposes. And the 4th picture, the final picture, is of, this is taken at Potomac Park. And the toilet paper is not accessible. I'll just put it that way. So these are real-time situations as of now. Maintenance and security standards are terribly important. We can talk about millions of dollars for parks, but if we're not maintaining them, if we don't have the security there, then there's a big problem. And I'll send some more pictures around this evening. Thanks to the clerk of the board, I really appreciate her. I go to her office and she sends things around all the time. we sent our copy of our call to fairness from October 2021. And it was based on, I want to be absolutely clear about this. It's based on actual operational funding. The county council's office was very helpful. They gave me a lot of detailed information. I had a math professor go through it and pull out figures, but we stuck to the operational figures. And what they showed was what we've talked about before. I don't have them up on the screen. And we showed major disparities between operational funding between the 5 districts. I also provided today information from 2021 again by supervisorial district of rangers, utilities, and ground maintenance. These are 3 important categories. The rangers are there to protect the public and also to oversee the parks in general, to make sure things are going okay. Rangers and utilities and ground maintenance. And I provided that to you. You can see the disparities there between the districts. Our position in October of 2021 has not changed. We're not trying to take, not advocating for, I should say, let me put it that way. We're not advocating for taking any money away from any supervisorial district. I want to be absolutely clear about that. But what we're looking for is for new operational funding in those districts where the funding is where they're underfunded because of the kind of pictures I've showed. And that has to do with, again, utilities, ground maintenance, and rangers. We want the funding targeted there. That was our suggestion. And we've been back with many suggestions. We asked that the millions of dollars in American Rescue Plan funding for Wi-Fi be allocated by supervisorial district. Well, the vote was 5-0 against our recommendation. One question today, how are those Wi-Fi funds, the millions, how are they being spent per supervisorial district? I don't know. I didn't ask. But that would be a question that ought to be asked. We asked that the $1.5 million in state parks per capita funding be allocated by supervisorial district. Not every project requires millions. Some can be 300,000. So we asked that those funds be allocated across the districts. The vote was 5-1 against our position. In addition, another 1.5 million went into the one project, which is not in districts 4 or 5. We ask, this is another important aspect that we've been very clear about. The 2020 Parks Plan is outdated. The city of Bakersfield is updating its plan. The demographics has changed here considerably since 2010. The state's Parks and Recreation District Association recommends that the plans be updated every 10 years. It's been 13 years. We've asked that the Parks and Recreation Plan be updated. We have not had a favorable response. One idea, by the way, having to do with Supervisor Couch's district, Hart Park, where I'm at a lot, it's a great park, and there have been significant improvements. Let me say that. Hart Park is overcrowded. On the weekends, in the summer especially, it's way overcrowded. What's been suggested, and could be part of a new plan, is that there be a new park, preferably out in the country. There be a new park that would serve Arvin Lamont residents. A new regional park for that area. But we can't get that on the horizon because there's really no opportunity to surface park planning for the future in general. There may be specific neighborhood meetings, but in terms of updating the plan, it's not there. Well, I've gone on a long time. I've had a lot more than 2 minutes. I appreciate this opportunity. Thank you, Supervisor Peters. Yes, we are advocates for all of Kern County parks. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Thank you, Mr. Lane. I elevated you. Supervisor Couch. And then we'll go to Supervisor Perez.
I think I heard there was a 5-1 vote in there, I guess. I want to add one thing to your presentation, which I thought of as you were giving it, Ryan. I want to compliment the board and the staff on the commitment to special districts in general, which includes park and rec districts. Some people have forgotten, but I haven't because I drove all the way to Lake Tahoe to accept this award on behalf of the County of Kern. And it was from the California Park and Rec District, California Association of Park and Rec Districts. And they gave us an award because we were the only county. I find this hard to believe, but they tell me it's true, and I checked on it again. They told me it's true twice now. We're the only county in California that shared our COVID relief money. I don't recall which funding source it was, with special districts to include park and rec districts. And so I want to thank the board for supporting that. I want to thank the staff for being willing to do that. That did not, obviously it was recognized across the state by what we did, and it was certainly appreciated here in Kern County as well. So thank you for your presentation. I think it shows, your 30,000-foot view shows that we collectively, I mean, the board, the county, our cities, our park and rec districts provide as good a service as we can provide with the money that we have to the constituents we have, and we are focused on providing that service, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Couch. Supervisor Perez.
Thank you, Chairman Flores. Eddie, thank you for your hard work. Thank you for the pictures. Pictures worth 1,000 words, 10,000 words maybe, and they're very powerful. And you know, my children attend MLK, and I drive by and use Bell Terrace Park daily, if not weekly, at least as part of my drive. Sometimes we get out and walk around there. And the playground equipment is not safe for children. And there are certain spots I'll let Noah play in, but you know, it's pretty bad. It's embarrassing and it's heartbreaking. And every time I drive by it, every time, which is usually daily, you know, it's painful. And I know we've allocated so much money, and I know we've worked so closely with the CAO's office, and we are breaking ground this summer on the playground equipment there, as well as bathroom stuff, some shading, and also at Casa Loma Park. To see the pictures, it's such a stark reminder of why we so desperately need it. With that said, I was at an incredible kickoff at Bell Terrace Park with neighborhood families for a baseball, t-ball, softball league for kids. 4 weeks ago. Extraordinary, Eddie. Extraordinary community participation. That community has always had a really special athletic cultural identity, which I think is really cool. What we do not have there is a good sort of community-based organizing around the protection of the park and that asset. And let me say, I talked to somebody there, Eddie, and I'd love to sit down and talk with you about it too, because that community has very passionate parents, and they have a lot of people, okay? 1,000 times more than we'll ever have in the park rangers, or that we'll ever have for police officers or BPD. Now, we're so close to the city there that we are working in conjunction with the city to do major upgrades, and I think in the future we would like to hand that park off to the city, because they have a very extensive planning around parks. They have an actual department. I mean, they have things that we don't have. But I think, Eddie, and I floated it at that baseball game, that we should get a member of community members there, of which we can provide all the necessary, goods, because we're about to break ground there and spend a lot of money there, a lot of money. That we need to organize that community to maintain the parks and the bathrooms, and I just don't see any other way. And after observing these parks now for 15 years as a planning commissioner and as a supervisor, I'm just so convinced of that. And so I think we need to harness this passion. Yeah, I so appreciate you, Ysidra, you're constantly bringing attention to these matters. I'm just so grateful to you. But I think we need to organize that community to have a say in the protection of those assets as we move forward to make major investments there. We're talking a couple $1 million in that park, and Lorelei can attest to that. Multiple CDBG rounds. Of course, with the COVID and everything else, it's just been impossible to get it rolling out, but I was so excited a couple weeks ago to learn that we are gonna roll out in Bell Terrace this summer and Casa Loma. And of course, it's just the start. I think you're so spot on to say investments and maintenance are different things. And that's a big issue, one of which I think with time we're gonna make more progress on, Eddie, especially with you and your pictures. I think they're very powerful. But in the meantime, as that baseball season is rolled out and as we're getting ready to break ground on the playground equipment, I just think it's such a ripe time to engage the community, to have, provide the tools and all the necessary pieces to help that community reclaim that park, because it belongs to that community, belongs to the students that are there. And that community has to make that decision and be part of the solution. I just so believe that. And we can provide all the pieces for that. So I'd like to talk to you about that very seriously, because I broached the subject there at the baseball kickoff, and it was very well received. I'm telling you, these people are organized, Eddie. They are organized. They have a real community with real families that have been there a very long time. I mean, this is just ripe for it. One of the reasons why we've made multiple rounds of investment there is because I know that community can really rebound in a way that is hard to do without its particular assets. So anyway, I'd like to talk to you about that, Eddie, and I'm serious about that. Thank you, Chairman, for your indulgence, and I see our planning director is teed up, and I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, so Director Oviatt, come speak, and then we'll go to the CEO's office for comments.
Thank you. Lorelei Oviatt, Director of Kern County Planning and Natural Resources. I just wanted to add another dimension. I actually think Mr. Lane's comments are clear, and he has a point, and I appreciate the way that the money has been laid out. But I want to point out that many of these pots of money have restrictions. For example, the Community Development Block Grant money that comes through my department to each supervisor through the federal government cannot be used in Hart Park. It cannot be used in a regional park. It was a special case for the Adobe because of its historical background. So that's a huge fund of money that cannot be used there. It cannot be used any place that is not 51% low income. Now, I defy anybody from Washington, D.C. to drive through a neighborhood. To me, a 51% low income and 47% look exactly the same, but not to the federal government, and I am repeatedly audited. Just last year, HUD audited my, 6 times, 6 different times going through an audit. So we have to follow these rules. That is a problem. The second problem is, I can assure you, since I have personally signed off on these projects, there is no park project between prevailing wage and other requirements that you can do for $250,000. It's just the rising cost of materials, the rising cost of prevailing wage, the minority is it called 3B requirements that we have to implement. All of that takes staffing and administration. And we are very grateful for this money. None of it can be used for operations. None of it can be used for rangers. So while the CAO has done an amazing job, along with General Services, and provided you that funding, the ARPA funding was one-time funding, and thank heavens, I hope, we will not have another pandemic. We will not get that funding again. So all of General Services maintenance and everything they do for rangers comes from the general fund. And I would like to see the next kinds of presentations that you make remind people of these, what I like to call the red tape of money, that there are limited funding streams. And if we have to triage, we have to triage. If we have to decide that urban parks need more maintenance, fine. But I know that for us who live in the outer reaches of life, we would like to have bathrooms that work too. These are all very difficult issues. I just want to add this red tape issue, that it's not just a lot of money. It's having to deploy it, and I think the way we've deployed it is amazing, the number of grants that we've gotten, and now we need to get to work and build these parks. Thank you.
Well stated, Director Oviatt. Thank you for that added layer of complexity and all the moving parts. At this time, we'll move to our CEO. I think they punched in, CEO.
I did, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. I've always appreciated talking about parks. It's obviously important to this board, so it's important to me. I have some of the pictures that were shared. Look, I'm very happy to have a new bathroom out at the campgrounds. This community needs places to go and accessible, close places to go camp. And I'm glad they've got a nice, clean, new bathroom. That doesn't mean that's the only place we're going to do that. I mean, these are things that we're doing one at a time. I'm not sure about the funding for that. I'm not sure that was all general fund money. But I do want to comment on these point-in-time pictures that Mr. Lane provides. They motivate me as your staff person here. I think they motivate Mr. Zerfus when we see them. But they're a point in time. I mean, the toilet paper is missing. Okay, you know, our maintenance staff will probably have a replacement out there to redo it. I can tell you that in terms of operational security and maintenance, taking Virginia and Casa Loma, we clean those bathrooms every single day, and we lock them every single night, and we reopen them every single day. That's a lot of touches just on bathrooms, a lot. And despite that, despite doing that and having that presence and rangers going through the area in addition to BPD officers and sheriff's deputies that drive through, yeah, they're not camped out there waiting for somebody. They're driving through. Obviously, people aren't looking to commit a crime if there's a police officer around. They're making sure nobody's around. Despite that, we had the Virginia restroom, not the restrooms, but all the piping and the wiring that controls those restrooms completely vandalized. It shut the restrooms down. Then we got to go out and repair them. We had one of our maintenance gal that maintains the bathroom at Casa Loma was robbed with a knife, and all of her stuff was stolen. All of her maintenance stuff was. I mean, this is challenging. Mr. Lane doesn't have these pictures, but I do. Somebody went through Panorama Park and tagged a bunch of trees, gang signs. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 15 trees. It makes me want to throw up. And you know, somebody goes in there in the dark of night, spray paints trees. You know, we don't have a cop sitting in the park all night. These folks are in the dead of night and they spray paint and they go out. So you know, these are major headwinds that our community is challenged by. All communities in our county are challenged by, and we've got to look. If a sign is vandalized, we replace it. If something is spray painted, we go out and repair it. If wiring is pulled out, we get it on the list and we go out, and that's how we battle it. And meanwhile, we're trying to do the best we can with our law enforcement. I'm also told by our park staff that they're saying that it's inaccurate that there's no water where Mr. Lane said there was no water working at Casa Loma. That's real time from our park staff. So that might have been a point in time at one point, but they're confirming for me that that's working. But I appreciate your comments, Supervisor Perez. I think it's a great idea. And I think those conversations are important to have, not just in the Belterrace area, but there are other areas. And I think the community needs to rise up and take control you know, needs to be hands off a lot of these parks, because it's, you know, we're trying to fix them up. We're taking a couple of great steps forward, but we keep taking steps back. And anyway, I appreciate this conversation today. And Mr. Zerfus wants to say something.
Thank you, Chairman and Board. I just wanted to thank our park staff. They respond quickly when things happen. I was just notified that the graffiti up in Panorama Park actually has been cleared today. So I think we just got that report this morning. So kudos to them, as well as Hart Park. So over the weekend, there were a number of reports of graffiti throughout Hart Park, actually similar graffiti as to what was in Panorama. That's been abated as well. So I just want to say thank you to our parks staff that's out there responding to these things. They do it quickly, they do it well, it looks good afterwards, and it's just a never-ending job. And so just a thank you to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so bring it back for board action. No action, informational only, okay. That sounded like an action item, it was so has such gravitas. Well, okay, before I move on, again, thank you to staff, thank you to the public. After this discussion today, parks have been elevated. We're all champions for parks. We will get there, and we have to be steady, focused, and we'll do that. And thank you to everyone involved. All right, this brings us to our next item, item 31. This is an item to identify a parent low, responsive, and responsible bid and approve contract number 1650-7019.22, Progressive Design Playgrounds for Lost Hills. Mr. Alsop, would you start us with reports?
Yeah, I'm pleased to do that, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and I'm happy to introduce Jeffrey Hill, who is our Chief General Services Officer, who will handle this item. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman Flores, members of the board. Just here to report a good project. Oftentimes these things go sort of on consent for being routine and non-controversial. This is certainly non-controversial, but it's anything but routine. This is a great project. This is the final contract award for the Clean California Grant project for improvements at Lost Hills. The park is owned by the county, but managed by the wonderful company. And the wonderful company partnered with the county to submit and subsequently win this Clean California Grant. Now, this is a $2.1 million grant that there is some match that Wonderful is providing as well. You'll see up on your screen, this gives a rendering of the park that's of the improvements that are in the offing. Last week, your board saw the first phase of this contract, which was the dirt work and the underground and a bunch of concrete and that kind of work. This contract is for the play equipment and the amenities that you see in this image here. There's two of them if you want to switch to the other one. Just a different view of the same park. So the contract before you today is the recreation or structure component. This is being awarded to Progressive Design Playgrounds, which is a company that really specializes in this. We'll see more and more in between now and the end of the year as these grant funded projects finally get designed and through building inspection or through the BID permitting process, they'll be coming to the board in the next few months. The scope of this work for the project is a significant improvement in the access and play amenities for this park. They offer inclusive play elements, music and sound elements, 2 to 5 and 5 to 12-year-old play structures, among others. It's a great project that serves an underserved and disadvantaged community. And it's a great collaboration with another partner, with the wonderful company. We've continued to partner with them because county owned the land. The grant had to come through us, and we've been working with them as leads. So that's the project. After today, the work begins on that project. So I can read the recommended actions, or I can ask if there's any questions from the board on this.
Okay. Any questions? Supervisor Couch.
Wonderful Company is sharing the cost with us. Is it a 50-50 share?
They're bearing all. That project is either funded by the grant or the Wonderful Company.
So we have no general fund money or anything going into this.
We have some administrative.
Which exacerbates the problem that no county money is being spent in parks.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
That's a good problem to have, I think. Supervisor Couch, through the chair, there is some administrative time that general services staff through construction services, because we have to administer the bid. We're not going to manage the project. That's being done by the Wonderful Company. But we've got some very small administrative costs that are being borne by the general fund.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you need a motion to approve, I would be happy to make that.
I think we're going to go to public comment first before we do a motion. Any public comment on this item? Okay. Now we have a motion.
I'll second that. Did you motion, Supervisor Couch? Okay, thank you. I'll make the second on that. I really like the ice cream sticks at the top of the. Did you see that? That's for cost savings, I assume. I'm just kidding. What is the Jeff? That's a very beautiful park. I want that everywhere now, all over the 5th District. Just kidding. What is the cost of that? Would you just estimate what that kind of layout we're looking at?
Supervisor Perez, to the chair, the contract for the play elements, keep in mind this is about 2.1 million total.
Okay.
The contract for the play elements, basically the stuff that you saw, play surfacing, the structures, is $1.65 million.
Well, I'm sure the ice cream sticks helped with the cost,
Yeah,
right?
they might.
No, it's so beautiful. I'm jealous. Supervisor Couch, I'm quite jealous of that investment there. That's gorgeous. Thank you for that. Chairman, I wanted to say something about, I forgot to say that involves Jeff to some degree, about the Baker Library. So if I could, I don't know when to do that.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Jeff. This morning, we anticipated some speakers to come in and talk about the library on Baker, which is in my district. We spoke about that this morning. These folks did not come, but you went right, just immediately went and got all the information that we needed. The update came with pictures at 2 p.m. I really appreciate that, Jeff. But it appears as though, I'm sorry? Oh, you did? Oh, fantastic. I'm so sorry that you're still waiting. Jeff, could you give us an update, please?
Yeah, absolutely, Supervisor Perez, through the chair. The update is that since January, we've struggled with the air conditioning in that building. We have ordered new air conditioning units. They were damaged through vandalism. We kept them alive for a while. But they have completely failed. Subsequent vandalism has caused the conditions such that we have to replace them. They have been ordered, and we got them earlier this month. We just have to plan the installation, and it's the installation for that as well as the ADA lift in the back. Okay, the ADA lift in the back has not been funded for replacement. That's $90,000 to replace that ADA lift. What has been really important for us is to provide a secure environment for both the air conditioning as well as the ADA lift. And that will be completed this week. I showed you pictures of a wrought iron fence with spiky tops, a expanded metal door, as secure as we can possibly make it so that it's not vandalized in the future. We have been aware of this and have been planning for the work. The ADA lift, after the new fiscal year starts, we will have access to funds that we can then contract for that $90,000 worth of work.
Jeff, that is so helpful. Do you have that computer you brought with the pictures of the new fence that was just put in to protect those areas from future vandalism?
Yeah,
I would love if you could share it with those folks. I know we probably can't do it officially.
I can take this. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, he's going to come over and show you guys the new wrought iron fence that was put in to protect those assets. Because of course, fixing them and then they're constantly, problematic. I can't answer any of your questions here. I'm so sorry, and I'm already in trouble with the chairman, I'm sure. Jeff, thank you.
Do you mind if either before your vote or after it, probably after the vote, make a couple of comments about an upcoming program related to volunteer opportunities?
Yeah, look, we're going to vote. We'll vote. So I have motion second. Members, cast your vote.
The motion is approved. 4 ayes, 1 absent. Supervisor Scribner.
Okay, proceed, Mr. Hill.
Just briefly, we have accepted volunteer work. Our rangers, we have 3 or 4 rangers at all times who are just volunteers. These are full PC 832, usually retired sheriff or fire or BPD or other people that work as a volunteer on a volunteer basis for our rangers. We have worked with county council and are close to having a volunteer program, an Adopt a Park program that will be rolling out soon. You mentioned community members would love to work with the community members in all of your districts. It would be great. He's gone. It would be great if Eddie's group would adopt a park. We'd love to see them out in the park. They certainly have a high degree of interest, and it would be fantastic for them to take a leadership role. And anybody else that you have, as we roll this out, in the coming months. It's a great opportunity, and so we'd love to work with with the groups that you've spoken with. We have the ability now to hire volunteers. It's a bit dicey in parks because there's a kind of a security component. Sometimes people can be overly enthusiastic with their volunteer efforts, but just keep in mind that we accept volunteer efforts now. We have gratuitous services agreements for all of this type of stuff, and we use it when people want to volunteer and want to help. So would love to work with within your district on that.
Jeff, this is very exciting because we have the people there. We have a community. We have defined assets. It's a limited geographic location. I mean, it's just a perfect opportunity to pilot how the community can adopt their parks and have a buy-in to keeping them protected, protect these assets we're making. This is county taxpayer dollars and their investments. We should be protecting them. But the community has to step up and do their part. And this is a perfect opportunity. So I'm excited because that baseball group, that community, it's perfect prime to roll out a pilot and then, stretch it out throughout the county. Anyway, thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, there are no more items on our agenda. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn and reconvene on July 18th.
Motion.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're adjourned.
provide a greater understanding of how people have adapted to these